Hello, and welcome to our video contemplation of day signature 46. This frequency corresponds to the Two of Wands and the wand virtue of acceleration. It is represented by the angels of discovery and delight.
Yeah, so we have the 24th angel of discovery, who walks the pathway of obsession to become the embodiment of genius. And we have the 46th angel of delight, who walks the pathway of permission to become the embodiment of sensuality.
Literally, the first thing I said yesterday was big words today, and it like almost just popped right out of me again, the exact same thing. Big words today, down to words like obsession, which we may not expect to find in this context of the angels, but here we have an actual pathway.
Right.
A way of bringing to life this natural expression of self. This is another really exciting day.
Definitely. There's a lot of energy in this day. You can tell based on the name of this virtue, this wand virtue of acceleration. It really captures sort of the speed and intensity and sort of, really active feeling.
Speed and intensity are correct.
Yeah.
Potency, you can feel it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's excitement.
It is excitement. Yeah, that is one of our favorite words for it. Excitement is so pure. You're not going to be excited about something that you aren't genuinely interested in some way. So there's something about that word I really enjoy because of that. It's connected to something totally authentic, totally innocent.
And you can't fake it.
It's totally spontaneous. Yeah, that's right. No, you can't fake true excitement. Okay, so that's what we're feeling today. And as is often the case, we have so much that we've already seen in the lead up to this conversation, that so much that we've taken like copious notes in this case, and we're going to just walk you through everything that we've seen. And we have some summaries. So hopefully as we move along, you're able to really leave with something you can remember, because there's a lot of ground that we tend to cover.
Yep.
Before we jump into describing the Two of Wands and what we see there, I didn't even talk to you about this, but I was thinking in the lead up to this how in not one case, a lot of videos we recorded so far, but in not one case have we explicitly invited our viewers to like the video. If you like the video, click that little thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We want to include you in this kind of family that is developing around these. And if you are enjoying this content and want to be made aware of each new video as it's released, do that. And the thumbs up may seem silly. It's very easy to do, but it actually goes a long way, not only in the algorithms, but like in our hearts. We see that. We're paying attention to you. So do not hesitate to just become a part of what's happening here if you're inspired to do so. Cool?
Yes.
Okay. We're not going to do that every video. It drives me nuts when
every single video.
It's like, come on, let's get to the good stuff. But it struck me that we've not once invited our viewers to join us in this way. So I wanted to share that.
That's important.
Okay, thanks. Two of Wands. What we've been doing almost daily up until this point is introducing you to the primary keynotes that we worked with and continue to work with in order to get a kind of a sense or a taste as to what's happening in each of these different positions or in each of these different members of the tarot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever really explained how we really came to find each of these words, and in particular with finding the names of the individual liberated tarot cards like the Two of Wands. We were very much inspired by the frequency that it's connected to. So in this case, the 46.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. And so a primary contributor to our contemplation in every case has been all of the words and phrases related to that exact frequency. In every case, we work with the exact frequency and its amplified frequency. So in this case, it was the 46 and all the different words and phrases resonant with that frequency, as well as the 460, frequency of 460, which has a couple of longer form phrases that absolutely connect. In addition to all of that, what we call our bucket of frequency words.
Right. And we're pulling from these words that we're pulling from are from the frequency tables themselves. So
Correct.
that's like containing the larger bucket that we're combing and, contemplating
Yes.
all of those words and looking for themes and seeing where they lead.
Right. So the benefit of sharing that is what we're doing, you can do too.
Right.
You can access the words table, type in the number 46, and see everything we are seeing. And we strongly encourage you to do this daily. It's so delicious. There is so much happening there, so much more than we could possibly fit into these videos. Even if we read them verbatim, it would just take time because these lists are long.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a part of what we're working with. But along the way, we're also defining, as you may have noticed, each of the different kind of repeating variables that we meet along the way. For example, the ace yesterday, we know that the ace repeats 4 times across the whole tarot. Same with the 2. You're going to have a 2 of swords, a 2 of wands, a 2 of hearts, and a 2 of diamonds. So we are connecting keynotes to each of these characters, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, there are 2 keynotes that we've connected to the 2, regardless of its placement. It's always going to carry these particular themes into the unique signature of whichever set of virtues it's serving.
Yeah.
Would you like to share what those 2 keynotes are?
Yeah. So for the number 2, we have choice and union.
Choice and union. We were not all that surprised to find the idea of union playing out in the 2 because this is age old.
Yeah.
It takes 2, as they say, right? It's all about relationship. It's all about partnership, of course. We enjoy the word union, in part because the word union is a 22. It's a 2 next to a 2. It's a master number theme.
Mm-hmm.
But also because union plays out not only in human relationships, but in so many other ways as well. We can unify parts of ourselves in order to become more integrated or more holistic internally. We can unify with our environment. We can unify with our ideas. So union has a lot of space in it. The one that surprised us, though, was choice, because over and over again, we found this unexpectedly as we met the Liberated Tarot, that in each of the 4 positions, or 4 sets of virtues, that too was connecting so unavoidably to this theme of choice. And so what we imagined was 2 paths. We've talked about this before. 2 paths, you get to choose which one you're going to walk down. But in every case, you have a binary set of options. It's either left or right, forward or backward, up or down, yes or no. Mm-hmm. That's what the 2 is showing us. It's bringing us over and over again throughout the Liberated Tarot to a choice point.
Yeah, and this is another one of those choice points.
We got, what was the mobile oracle we received today? Do you remember what it was offhand?
Yes, so it was the hinge point is decision. So
There it
it's
is.
really confirming
There's the hinge point.
what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, right there at the crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
And over again in our lives, we're brought to this moment of opportunity where we get to kind of reset the whole game, so to speak, and choose again in one direction or another. We like to think of the 2 paths as either the path of worry on the one hand or the path of wonder on the other. Mm-hmm. And we're choosing to open ourselves to wonder over and over again. If you've been watching us, you hear us say this all the time. That's the choice point. On whatever the subject may be, this is the choice point. And so today, in particular, with the 2 of Wands, we realize that we arrive in life, in this flow of life. Mm-hmm. We all collectively arrive at this moment, again, of kind of being reminded that we have the power to choose and the responsibility. We were speaking earlier about how even in those cases where we feel like we can't choose or haven't yet made a choice, it's very important to realize that choosing not to choose is itself a choice. There is no such thing as not choosing. No matter what you do, you're choosing something. Right. Even if you choose complete apathy, mm-hmm. you may not feel like that's a very empowered choice, but it is a choice. And so the idea that you can't choose is a proactive claim, a choice, to remain put, to stay put. The challenge, of course, with this is that when you make that choice, you stagnate. And life never stagnates. Life only moves. And so in this position of stagnation, we find ourselves becoming more and more uncomfortable. Stagnation is the opposite of life. So we could say that it is a sort of death,
Mm-hmm.
and life is never going to permit that for long.
Right.
So we feel that pressure.
Yeah, it's like you feel diminished in some way.
Mm-hmm. Diminished is a really good word. Disempowered is one we often use.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the feeling is very much more like diminished. You feel small.
Yeah.
And you feel like you have no control over that. You have no power, no say in the matter.
Mm-hmm.
What this Two of Wands shows up to remind you is that in every case, you do have a say in the matter. And your choices, your inner choices, the things that you decide to agree with, decide to tell yourself,
Mm-hmm.
those things matter. And the decisions that you make in terms of what you will or will not do, which actions you will or will not take, those things matter. Your whole life is the result of that constellation of ideas and behaviors that produced it.
Mm-hmm.
So, choice, major theme today.
Yes.
Remember this when we meet the other twos, because they're going to come up again. But for now, it's all about, in particular with the wands, a choice to act.
Yes. A choice to be open.
Yeah.
Really, that action is an opening. I think is the prerequisite, choice or action.
I can see that. So being willing to open yourself,
right? Being
to
open
life.
to delight, being open to discovery.
There you go. Okay, I like that. So we can connect it directly to the angels.
Absolutely. Right, because before we can really start walking these pathways of obsession or these pathways of permission, we have to even be open to the idea that there's something to permit or there's something to, obsess over. If we feel like that's just not possible for us, then that's the choice you're making right there. You're being closed off to that possibility.
Yeah, it's a new thing, I think, to consider these ideas in this way, to realize just how autonomous we are, even when we feel like we're not.
Right.
We are constantly choosing one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't to make things our fault. It isn't to say that if you feel stuck or if you feel small, you did that to yourself. Mm-hmm. Although, technically, that is true. But that's not the point. It's not about casting blame. It's in fact about uplifting the awareness to such a level that it can recall its own power. That's what this is about. You do get to choose. You always get to choose. You get to literally craft a whole new life based upon the quality of decisions you are making, internally and externally. So this is kind of what we meet today. And connecting these angels now is just, it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. Very exciting to consider these angel themes. When you consider the angel names in correspondence with one another, discovery and delight, it sounds like a thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's amazing to me that the Crystalline Codex has paired these angels as it has, because in no other way have they been connected like this before. So it's a totally new concept, and they work beautifully together. Each day that we have contemplated these pairs, we're amazed at just the symbiotic relationship that they have.
Yes. Receiving the words for these angels was one major leap. They were new, and they remain new. But to connect these words in this way, we're just constantly amazed. Which, I mean, really what we're describing is discovery.
Yeah.
And what is more delightful than discovery? When you really kind of consider this for yourself, there is really nothing more thrilling than discovery. We've met the theme of surprise before in these conversations. That's equal to discovery.
Very similar energy, yeah. Very similar feeling.
Absolutely. You're onto something, and then you encounter it. That is, I mean, you can think of it in any direction, but I can remember meeting you in person for the very first time. It's like, it's always a wow moment. Mm-hmm. Always. Even in those cases where whatever it is you're discovering maybe disappoints your expectations. Maybe it looks or happens differently than you anticipated. Even in those cases, there's a certain thrill of engagement with what was previously an idea that is all a part of what it means to be alive. Mm-hmm. I do believe that discovery and delight are, I believe we could say that they are the primary themes of embodiment. The very reason we become embodied to begin with.
Right.
Because we want to come close enough to our lives to actually experience them. It's about the encounter. And if that's true, then over and over again, we're kind of moving through this stream of perpetual discovery and expanding delight.
Yes.
That's what life gets to be. But only when we permit it. And the pathways are the very things that show us on a practical level how to get that, how to encounter a life rooted in discovery and delight.
Yes.
So what are the pathways for these two again?
So for the 24th angel of discovery, we have the pathway of obsession. And for the 46th angel of delight, we have the pathway of permission.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Hand in hand once again.
Yes.
Before we connect them, we're going there.
Okay.
Before we go there to connect them, it's really important to highlight, circle, draw arrows at this word obsession. We mentioned it at the start of the conversation, but who expects to see the word exception as a pathway of angelhood? It's wild and unexpected. We tend to think in terms of obsession. We tend to think of obsession in terms of imbalance, even diagnostic imbalance. Think about obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. You're too focused on this one thing. You're too narrow-minded. What we find here is that it is, in fact, a complete commitment of the self in any particular direction that produces, in this case, the very embodiment of genius. Obsession is the foundation of genius. It's the soil from which genius ultimately will grow.
Yeah.
We talked about this yesterday on one of our walks, but think of a single example in all of history of someone who is considered a genius or a master in any right on any subject. You will have found that they were utterly obsessive about whatever it was that they were a genius of or a master of. It doesn't matter if it were, Albert Einstein or Gandhi. In any case where you have an expression of true originality, true genius, true mastery, in every case, you will find someone who was obsessive about whatever it was that they mastered. Obsession is absolutely fundamental to a fulfilling experience.
Yes.
This is the tie-in to yesterday. We talked a bit about fulfillment. This is how to be fulfilled. It's the difference between half-heartedness and wholeheartedness. It's the difference between portioning yourself off into all these different, either scattered directions or misaligned directions or both, and committing 100% of your complete self, your complete attention, your complete energy, and yes, your complete genius towards something that actually ignites that fire of excitement within you. You can tell just by listening to that that's a thing, that obsession fuels and permits genius. So first and foremost today, we have this opportunity for the first time in our sequence to reclaim the whole idea of obsession, to redeem the word obsession.
Yeah. I was going to say unshame, but redeem is a much better
Unshame
word.
too. I like that too. It's very significant to us when we come upon these particular words in the angel index in particular, because that redemption changes everything. And you'll find this happens a few times over. Two that jump right to my mind are this one, obsession, and another that comes later, decadence.
Yeah, I was going to say decadence.
Yeah. These are words that have been totally misrepresented in the mainstream. For whatever reason, the angels are inviting us to reclaim them. I say for whatever reason, but we're all getting a sense as to what that reason may be. There's power in these words because they're calling all of us forward.
And they are a major contributor to the possibility of enjoyment, which is what it's all about.
Yes. They are fundamental to enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. They're not just a contributor in the way that some of these other factors may be. They're prerequisite. So obsession. We reclaim the word obsession. We're going to talk a little bit more about what it means to be totally obsessed with something. And what it means for those of you who maybe feel like I've never been obsessed about anything. But for now, consider the term obsession in this new light and connect it to permission. What would it mean to permit your obsession? After a lifetime of being told that obsession is equal to imbalance, after a lifetime of being told that you absolutely should not put all your eggs in one basket, that that's irresponsible and risky, that it never pays off, what it means to reclaim all of that, replace those very, very diminishing, I like that word very much, those diminished or limiting stories, to reclaim it all and say, what if I did permit my obsession?
Yeah.
We have here at this point the opportunity, I think, to share this kind of summary of what we see in this day. We found it this morning, I think, on our walk, and we joked about how we could just show up, introduce the different elements of the day, read this off and be like, we did it, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it just contains all of this in such a beautiful way.
It really encapsulates the whole, energy in one, really short and sweet little summary that you just get it.
Yeah, it's very concise, very direct. Would you like to just read it right off?
Sure. Permit your obsession. Your life accelerates when you do.
Acceleration.
Yes.
That is what we find here in the Two of Wands. It's the wand virtue of acceleration. It's not just that you get to feel fulfilled. It's that permission, that obsession, and that fulfillment is the very thing required in order for your life to blow open.
Harness power.
Harness power.
Which is the theme of the wands. It's the essence of the wand suit, is this theme of power.
Wow.
We've talked about it in, the conversations leading up to this one. And that's what happens. You're harnessing power when you're really choosing to permit your obsession.
This is how you harness power.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so that reminds me of another kind of goofy little metaphor that we talked about yesterday. I can't help. I was seeing it at the beginning of the conversation. Not sure if it would come up. Here it is.
Okay.
Imagine that you have, I always like to use a Ferrari as an example. You've got a sport, an exotic car in your driveway. Power personified. It looks powerful, and you know that the engine inside that car is powerful. It is power personified. So there is a Ferrari in your driveway. If we rewind 2 days, we find in the frequency of the 44 the wand essence of power. There's your Ferrari, right? Yesterday, we met the frequency of 45, which was the wand virtue of story, right? The story here is that car has somewhere to go. If you get in that car and you drive it... It
was built for the purpose of driving it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That power is meant to be used. It wants to be used. It wants to be spent in a particular way. That car wants to scream, right? But that story doesn't get to play out until you open the door, sit in the seat, turn the car on, right? There's something about this that needs to be initiated by you. That car can be very powerful, and that power can mean next to nothing for you in your story if you never open the door, sit in the car, and go for a drive, right? So all of this is well and good, but what I can't help but see is that even if you were to permit that story to begin to unfold and you got in the car and you turned it on and you took it out onto the highway, there's still this need to find a free lane.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of power in this car. If the story you've been telling yourself is, that power is too dangerous, I'm afraid I'm going to, run into something or not be able to handle it, I may feel out of control, you'll never drive the car. If you can elevate your story to such an extent that you get in the car and go for a drive because maybe it will be really awesome and a lot of fun, and maybe that's the whole reason you have this Ferrari in the driveway, you've come a long way. Now the power is about to be put to use. But what is very important to realize here, and I think a part of what this day signature brings, is an awareness that you are meant to get in your own lane. You are meant to be obsessed about a particular thing.
Yeah.
That's the way that we connect the dots between yesterday's story and today's acceleration. If you take this thing out on the highway and you get in the human design lane, that's been done and overdone. Done, redone, overdone. That was whose thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you get into that lane, you're going to find a lot of other cars in that lane. And if you gun it, you're very likely to hit another car, right? What you really need to do is to find your thing, whatever that may be. It could begin with something like human design. That might be the kind of the initiating moment.
Catalyst.
Right?
You know.
But ultimately, you're an original. You're not a carbon copy of anything. You're not meant to be. So there is a significance to a fundamental significance, a deep need to find your own lane and to realize what it is that you've always been connected to. Once you do this, once you realize what that thing is, we'll talk more about how to find that momentarily.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get in your own lane, then you can put the pedal to the metal. Now you can accelerate. This day is inviting you to remember, what is it that you truly love? What is it that has always fulfilled you? Will you permit yourself to enjoy that thing, to continue to love that thing, even if you haven't even thought about it since you were a young child? Will you permit yourself to begin to offer your heart, your love, your time, your energy back to this thing, which has such a fundamental value for you, which is equivalent to putting that Ferrari in its lane? If your answer is yes, if you will permit your obsession, the promise here is that when you accelerate, it's smooth sailing. And when you accelerate, you will accelerate. It's power. It's backed by power. You're 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're 60 to 90 in less time than that. And then you're 120. Before you know it, you're driving, so to speak, faster than you ever have before. A perfect example of this would be these videos.
Yes.
We've both created content before. We know what it means to be content creators, and we've left that behind. We have zero interest in being content creators.
Mm-hmm.
It's exhausting, and it does not fulfill, in large part because we're not in our own lane. We're very much worried in those cases about what other people may want or need to hear or see.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we don't care about any of that. We've found our lane, and we've put the pedal to the metal. And what we found, of course, is that in basically a week's time, 10 days time, we've got not just dozens of videos, which would have been impressive enough, but when we counted yesterday, it was like over 60, 65, 66 videos
Hours
and more.
And hours of content.
Oh, just tons.
In no time.
In no time. And it cost us nothing in terms of effort. It wasn't difficult. It was difficult at first to permit our
Yes.
ourselves to show up in this way because it felt uncomfortable and new.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a discomfort we were willing to face because we recognized it to be rooted in smallness.
Yeah, and I think what happened first was we made the decision to be open to it. We made the decision to show up, and life moved us at that point. We didn't have to, exert a lot of effort to make it happen because we had just been willing to be open to our obsession.
We got in the car.
Yes, we got in the car.
We looked at each other and said, I don't know. And she said, I'm glad you're the one driving. And I said, yeah, but I don't know if I can handle this much.
Mm-hmm.
And silly metaphor, of course. But here we are. And we're looking in the rearview mirror now at everything that has unfolded in days, in no time. When we talk about acceleration, we are not talking about an idea, a cute or interesting idea. Acceleration means acceleration. It means that if you are willing to permit your obsession to commit your whole self in any particular direction, your life will blossom. Your life will explode open. And this is probably a great time to share some of the words that we found in this frequency.
Yeah. So a lot of these words that match the frequency of 46 led us to choose and discover, or what was revealed to us was this theme of acceleration. So,
but this morning when we were revisiting them, my mind does not work the same way yours does. Laura's mind sees patterns that mine skims past without, just skips past without even knowing. So she was like, do you see? And I didn't until she showed me. Mm-hmm. There's a pattern here. And these are just some examples of what we found in the frequency of 46. But let's read off some of these that remind us of the explosive quality of this energy.
Yes. So you have accelerated, blazing, break open, burst, champagne, emphatic, exploded.
Pause. Exploded itself is here.
Yes.
It's hilarious. All right, keep going.
Generate, genesis, hatching, new beauty, no limit.
Pause. Again, no limit.
No limit.
I love that.
The word obsess.
The word obsess follows no limit, of course. Though, of course.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got the lane and you've got all the power in the world, you will continue to accelerate without fail.
Yeah.
That's the kind of inertia we want to be connected to.
Yes.
We don't want to be connected to the inertia of apathy, the inertia of, I don't know. We want to be connected to the inertia of, I don't know yet, of the inertia of, I am so excited to find out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on my way. It's only a matter of time. My eyes are wide open. It's coming. I know it. I feel it. Full speed ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't even all the words.
No.
You want to keep reading?
Okay. Orgasmic, renewed, savor, sleuth, sneeze, speeding, and you are a verb.
So, sneeze cracks me up.
Yeah. But it's an explosion.
It's an explosion. It's so good. And then speeding.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I saw that word and then this Ferrari flashes into my mind. The Ferrari idea, that whole story came first yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And now today we arrive at this frequency and we're reminded that these are all the words playing out here.
Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure the Prince of Wands might be ignition.
Yes, the 43.
Yes.
You are correct.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the story playing out here. We know what's required of us. And, well, it's not required of us. Nothing's required of us. You're not required to enjoy your life. You're not required to feel fulfilled. But something within you absolutely requires that. It's not like life is saying, like that meme with the stick, like, come on, do the thing necessarily. It's that you deserve to be fulfilled. It's that something inside of you knows that you deserve to be fulfilled. And it's that no matter how apathetic you pretend to be, you absolutely know that that pressure, that need is there. And it's there not to disappoint you, not to cause you to feel small and insignificant and disempowered by this great big monster of life, but rather to place you right at the center of that life, to remind you of your significance, of the magnificence of the role that you occupy.
Yeah, I mean...
And then invite you to use that, to do something with that, to make something of that, your choice. Make anything you want.
Yeah. I was going to say, just like, a flower's destiny is to blossom, it's the same thing with humans. We have a destiny to blossom. Mm-hmm. It's just who we are. It's built into who we are. A flower, doesn't grow just to stay closed. It has to open. It has to become beauty.
Yes.
And that's my metaphor.
It's perfect. It's correct. We are equal to that flower in that we are equally beautiful, equally viable expressions of that same nature. Of course, we are like that. The only reason any of us have failed to experience that, perhaps up until this point, is because we've been convinced that we are not like that. We've been treated like machines, robots, mechanisms. That is not what we are. We are organic expressions of life itself. We are backed by the full force or power of that life. And all of that is surging for expression through you. It must express. And so you have this opportunity to permit your obsession to love what you love, understanding that when you do that, your new life explodes to life right then and there as a direct result of it. Mm-hmm. That's what happens. The pathways we've just looked at, the embodiment we should connect as well, because we're dealing with the embodiment of genius and the embodiment of sensuality. This may seem a little more abstract, but it's actually the most tangible part of the whole story, which is that none of this makes sense if isolated in the kind of the vacuum of the mind. If it's only an idea, if it's only a fantasy, it means next to nothing. The point of all this is to embody the genius, is to become the genius, is to meet your life totally on purpose, to meet your life so completely that you can actually feel it. That's what sensuality is about.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved the word sensuality. It's another one I felt a little bit surprised to find here on this high level, so to speak, of the angels. But of course it's here. Of course, all of these high frequencies must be rooted in the ground of our experience. It's like all the most yummy energies, they're not just in your head, they're in your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And until they're both in your head and your feet, you haven't yet tasted anything. So sensuality is fun because it's a double entendre. It's entendre. I was like half ensemble and then half entendre. Hey, we're making up words today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a double entendre. Often I'll make up words on purpose to be funny. This one was a total...
Yeah, backfired.
Yeah. Okay, so sensuality is a double entendre. It's first and foremost dealing with the sensory nature of your experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying that your delight is meant to be tasted.
Yeah.
You're supposed to feel it,
Mm-hmm.
all of it. Feel all of it and feel it with all of you. See it, smell it, taste it, touch it, be with it. It's intimate. And that's another major theme that we've already met in these wands. Mm-hmm. That's the Queen of Wands. Mm-hmm. The theme of intimacy.
Yeah, wow.
It must be felt. Yeah. So it's about the senses. And something about the expression of your genius demands that. We talked earlier, Laura and I talked earlier, about as kind of another goofy example, the idea of a mathematical genius, which feels very mental. Mm-hmm. Think of movies like Good Will Hunting or something like this, where you've got the professors and the savants in this classroom, and they're just scribbling all over the chalkboard, or Albert Einstein or something like this. It's interesting to note that as abstract as math may seem, these people in this story, these geniuses, they are fully dependent upon that blackboard, the sound of the chalk on the blackboard, the feeling of the chalk on their fingers, whether they're aware of it or not, and I would bet they are aware of it. Mm-hmm. That experience of being able to like scribble, to put it into form and actually look at it and see the patterns, that's the very thing that activates the genius, which is already a part of who they are. Mm-hmm. So even in these apparently abstract, apparently mental realms of genius, what we find is that genius must be embodied. It must be felt, because that genius is somehow contained in and expressed through the experience. It's not meant to be an idea. It's meant to be a story, a reality. It's meant to be lived. So sensuality is about the sensory experience. But what do we find when we come that close to life? When we permit ourselves truly to delight in whatever we're engaging with so totally? What happens when we become intimate with our own experience? It gets really sexy really fast. Sexy as equal to exciting.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, you're lit up.
You're lit up from the inside out. The word orgasmic showed up today. That doesn't need to be what we might typically refer to as a physical orgasm. That can be like orgasmic, like a heart feeling, this massive explosion of self that's like, I can't believe how good this feels, how exciting this is, how much more there is here than I ever could have guessed.
Or I could do this all day.
Or, there's your obsession. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Time, flies when I'm doing this thing, or I'm engaged in this thing.
It's fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's total fulfillment, total contentedness. And these things, rather than bringing us to the end of a line, just continue to blow open into more and more and more of the same, of that fulfillment, of that enjoyment, of that contentedness. Life does not stop moving. It always grows. But it grows from the ground of perfection, from the ground of fulfillment. That's what this is all about. So what we wanted to speak to before closing, and I think it's important that we still do this, is the idea of obsession. Mm-hmm. In the context or in the light of an individual who might feel like they don't have anything to obsess over. They feel like they've never had an obsession. Mm-hmm. Would you like to share a little bit about what you were seeing there?
Well, I think the one phrase that we wrote down that we thought was really important to share.
We could read it off and riff on that. Okay.
The worst thing you can do is to be dismissive of your basic enjoyment. So that's where you start. If you think that you don't have something to obsess over, I mean, that's quite common, in fact.
Yeah,
but
totally.
To even begin to open to the idea of that kind of fulfillment, we need to understand whether or not we're being dismissive of our basic enjoyment, for starters.
Yes.
And also to even entertain the possibility of an obsession. Of course it's possible, but you must decide that you want to experience that in the first place, or it's being held apart from you.
By your own idea.
Yeah. A limiting belief. It's nothing more than that.
Right.
But we're here to experience it.
Yes.
So this is that choice point where we get to decide to be open to, that experience of life.
Yes. So what I hear you saying is, first and foremost, if you're uncertain as to whether or not you have an obsession, whether or not you even know what you love, if the story you've heard in your own mind is, I don't think that's for me, or I don't know, it's time to update that story. It's time to become open to the fact that you have been seeded with, born with an inheritance of fulfillment, and that fulfillment comes directly as a result of your reconnecting to some part of yourself that may very well have been lost or buried beneath all of these other stories. So we reframe the story. Instead of saying, I don't know, in an apathetic manner, we open ourselves to the idea that we might just not know yet. Right. And we replace the words I don't know with, I am excited to find out. I will find out. Mm-hmm. Do you feel the difference? I don't know, can't move. It's in this tiny box, and it is a very static container. It is claiming stagnation. Mm-hmm. The moment you alter that story with your words in your own mind, the moment you become open to the discovery of something, in that very moment, the box dissolves. Yeah. And that opening permits all of life to start revealing itself to you in a whole new way. It's all been there all along. Mm-hmm. It's not that new possibilities are revealed. It's that you become available to the very same possibilities which have been waiting on your recognition. Yeah. Right? So that's step one, is to open, and I'm glad that we get this opportunity to really highlight that, because every time that you and I have had this conversation in the past couple of days, I know that's like big for you. Like you feel the significance of that in your own heart.
Yeah, it feels like before we can even start talking about this, we need to first be open to this even being possible.
Yes.
It's really the first step.
Open to the possibility. Mm-hmm. Open to the possibility that you are important enough to have something like that. Open to the possibility that there is a genius within you that perhaps you have yet to meet, but absolutely will. Open to the fact that your life gets to be delightful, that it can be delightful, and that you get to taste that. You get to experience that, and even build a whole life on the ground of that, on the foundation of that delight and those discoveries. Mm-hmm. Open yourself to that possibility. If you're watching these videos, first of all, if you've made it this far into the video, you're a champ. If you've made it this far into the video, you're already in that energy. You've already permitted yourself to experience quite a lot more than you even maybe knew was possible for you to permit. So you're right there at the edge of it. Now we open to the possibility that all of this may be true. What if? That's another really fun way. What if it were true? Mm-hmm. What if life could be that good? What if there is somehow, somewhere, some kind of genius unique to me, mm-hmm. waiting to be expressed?
What if I let my obsession carry me away? Where would I end up?
Yeah.
What if I surrendered to that? What if I permitted that?
So what we're seeing is that when you open to it, you will receive it. When you open to the possibility that you could, in fact, have something that important for you, something that you could deliver your whole heart and time and attention to day after day, without break, without pause, without cost, something that you cannot help but give yourself to in that way. When you open yourself to that possibility, you will meet whatever that thing is. Mm-hmm. You may not meet it right away. For me, early on, it was human design. I gave 100% of my time and attention to human design. I left everything else aside and just gave full-time attention to this thing, thinking at the time that perhaps this was the thing. Well, that initial thing has certainly evolved in the years since, Absolutely. Many times over, until you arrive at the thing. And all I can tell you from my own personal experience is you will know when you find it. You will land in it, and you will know that it's like these pillars grow from your feet, like down into the earth as far as they possibly can go. It's just like you're boom, mm-hmm. you're rooted now in the thing. It took you a little while to find that particular soil, but the minute you found it, done. It locks. The only way to get there sometimes is to wholeheartedly deliver yourself to a few different alternatives before you find it.
Absolutely.
We talked a little bit about that yesterday. Yeah. That's allowed.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is being open.
Yeah.
It may or may not be required. You have some people, you see some of these like Instagram reels where you've got this like 3-year-old playing piano. You're like, okay, they probably didn't test out alternatives before they just started playing piano. They were built for this. Some people just find it. A lot of us need to go looking, but that's what the discovery is about. Yeah. And there's a thrill to that. It's half the fun.
It's part of the journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. The sleuthing that we saw here today.
And every step, contributes to the ultimate end result.
Yes.
That is.
But that's only if you're taking the steps.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're sitting in place wishing, mm-hmm. or sitting in place grumbling, mm-hmm. and criticizing and complaining. No. That is a teeny tiny life none of us deserve to live, and frankly, none of us want to be a part of anyway, even when we're kind of stuck in that vortex of discomfort.
Yeah.
So we open to a greater possibility. That's step one. And the moment that we get a taste of something that actually ignites something, that actually feels interesting enough to give ourselves to so completely, we then permit ourselves to do that. We permit the obsession. Because when we do that, our life begins to accelerate. It may or may not accelerate down the particular line that you're focused right now. But the guarantee is that if you're meant to be on a different line and you're wholeheartedly committed to this moment, to your life, if you're truly present to its movement, you will simply, spontaneously, and automatically be moved by that larger life into the greater story you have come to tell. That's the promise. And that is quite a promise. And we are not speaking from theory. I don't know. I wish we could just download our history and our experiences into every listener's mind, mm-hmm. so they could see that this is not coming from some fairy tale book or some other content creator who inspired us to be all excited about some fantasy. No, we have literally lived this over the course of our entire lives. Mm-hmm. But what we're talking about here, we have touched and tasted, and you're actually witnessing the product of. So, and we're like you. We're like you. We're not different from you. Mm-hmm. So if it's possible for us, it's possible for you. Open to that possibility. Watch where it leads you. Have fun along the way. This is the day of discovery and delight. You're not supposed to know it all. You're supposed to discover it all. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be delightful along the way. There's nothing about this that equals hard work. The final thing we should share is what we discovered about the prime instincts.
Okay.
Let me see how much time we got. Should I give the example or just share the instinct?
I would just share the instinct for now, but definitely tie it into this idea of discovery, that it wouldn't go away.
Okay.
Until you discovered it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to spend time on the technical details here, but I can tell you that I've been very aware of something, I didn't know what, something that was waiting to be found, waiting to be discovered for about a week now, maybe a little longer. And every time that I attempted to release this idea that every one of the different tarot members is in one way or another connected to the prime instincts, this was the idea. I kept finding it returning. I would let it go and it would return. And I kept thinking, all I need is a few minutes to sit in front of our paperwork, and maybe if there's something to be seen, it will be. Well, it was today, on the day of discovery and delight. And again, without going into too much detail or taking too much time to share this, I can't really remember too many other experiences in my life. Maybe, marrying you would certainly be a higher one than this. But for the most part, I can't think of anything more thrilling or delightful than what was revealed for me, to me, just this morning. It's as big as the angels, as big as the Liberated Tarot as far as I'm concerned. Because I could feel it every day. And it was driving me a little bit nuts, and I kept trying to push it away. But that obsession, that return of this thing over and over again, what it yielded ultimately was a very profound awareness, which will absolutely fundamentally serve every one of these conversations and our complete contemplation on the Liberated Tarot at large for the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. It's big. So the discovery is, of course, that every single one of these members is directly connected to one of the 22 prime instincts. And these instincts cycle 3 times over throughout the course of the tarot. It's beautiful. It's mathematically brilliant how this works. The prime instinct that we discover today is the prime instinct to surrender. Mm-hmm. Is it not fairly clear how that connects to permission? Are they not synonymous?
And the prime is decision.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot.
I mean, we're on the 2 of Wands, which is about choice. And this prime is decision. Its prime instinct is to surrender, which is synonymous with permission.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
It's just a beautiful, tie a bow on it moment.
It's a tie a bow on it moment, yep. The prime of decision is the 20th prime. The prime instinct to surrender. What you're surrendering to is the unfoldment, the delicious unfoldment, the surprising unfoldment, the expansive unfoldment of your own life. That's what you're surrendering to. You're not surrendering to anything, any kind of wisdom that we may be able to share. You're not surrendering to anything outside of yourself for once. You are surrendering to yourself, to your story, to your genius, and to your direct experience of all that. That's what we find here in this day's signature. We could not be more thrilled to share this with you, but we also could not be more thrilled to stop the recording and go live this, because it's been so good.
Yeah.
And it's not stopping. It's acceleration. We're moving in one direction, and that direction is accelerating, it's expanding, it's amplifying. That's true for us. It absolutely can and will be true for you. If you're open to it, you'll taste it. We're very excited for anyone who views this. Is there anything I've forgotten in our notes?
Nope.
We did it all.
We did it.
This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you. Have fun with this. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Goodbye for now.
Bye.